Hey, everybody. Welcome to Popular Unknown Paintball Live. I got a great guest for us tonight, and it's a last-minute thing, and you'll have to forgive me. I have been rushing around for the last hour, and I'm a little bit scatterbrained. So, yeah, this is not exactly a fake it till you make it because I have a great guest, but he's a last-minute guest. So it's kind of one, kind of the other. So I don't have the normal prep work. A lot of people don't know this, but I quite often I'll put like a little bit of something behind behind the camera and stuff so that I can read for prompts and things like that. So I hope you all just bear with me because it's just going to be a great night. We got lots of questions. Before we get started, I don't have any of my prep work up. I definitely want to thank the people that help make the show possible. Got to give out. There it is. There we go. We got to have a shout out to Valken because they're just awesome. Mac Dev and all they do for the I'll Remember Foundation, Push because I love your goggles, Immortal Air, Transfuse, Ultra Silk, I'll Remember Foundation. And we got somebody saying, "Evening, Steve. Love you, brother. Love you too." And ooh, this looks cool. You notice how this has like the little bubbles coming up? Yeah, this is a new setting on StreamYard. Yeah, I'm liking it. I'm keeping it. All right. So yeah. I'm at a complete loss today. I do apologize. I've had a lot of different people calling me over the last few days. It's been kind of humbling. A couple big names have called me saying, "Steve, you've got the pulse on what's going on, and I want your opinion." And it's like, I'm a guy in Canada that lives in a 1-bedroom apartment. How does my opinion matter? But it's great. And I'm also very excited about the new Jeremy Somm documentary that Paintball Media put out. I know it's not posted anywhere, but I got to plug that. If you get the chance, make sure you swing by. If you want to ask me for a link, I'll definitely help you out with that. But I loved narrating it, and I have to say that even though I love narrating it, I just loved watching it. So, we got lots of people saying, way to scare the crap out of me. Yeah, well, you got to get used to that explosion of mine. And wow, 4 shows in one night. Nice. I'm not sure what that means, but okay, good job. And what's good, bro? Everything's good. It's all good. And William Bailey says, "Hey, Steve." And we've got Jen Montresor saying, "Hi, Steve from the Super Bowl host city." I wish I was there to join you for that. So, all right. Well, let's stop listen to me blatter on because let's face it, nobody tunes in to listen to me. Let's talk to our guest, and this is Russel Jackson, and he is from SP and GOG and Freak and DLX, which makes the wonderful Lux. I love those Freak barrels, by the way. And he's the guy that answers your question about shockers, and he is also the man that is now behind the Iron City Classic. So with all of that, let's bring on this guy and save me from sounding like a idiot. So, hey, Russell, how are you?
Hey, with all that the explosion got me too pretty good. So
it's good though, right?
It gets your attention.
Yeah. Well, you remember the old one because
Mm-hmm.
when we were all talking about the Iron City Classic last time, there was you and Sam and
Ryan.
Thank you. I can remember now. This is funny. Now I've got the last names. I can't get the first names right. But yeah, when we were all talking, you guys were commenting, but I had that explosion upgraded a little bit, and I think it's just a little bit nicer. So yeah.
It's higher end. So yeah, excited to have me on. Like you said, they wear a lot of hats.
You do.
There's a lot going on right now. Obviously, repping Iron City.
Yeah.
We're really excited this coming week. So February 1st, we're going to announce the team list. And it's not a whole lot of surprises because fortunately, a lot of the teams that signed up in 2020 stuck with us all the way through 2021. So it's going to be a lot of familiar faces. Not going to have a whole lot of openings, but we're really excited just to get out there and start talking about it some more. We wanted to kind of leave some air in the room for all the other events that are popping up. Obviously, the Florida 10-man is huge. Will Arroyo's doing a whole bunch of fun stuff. There's Woods Bowl Classic up in New York.
Oh yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff going on, and we didn't really want to take the air out of the room by constantly pounding the Iron City Classic stuff. But now that February has rolled around, people are getting excited for our event coming up in a couple months. We're really excited to start getting it out. And just like you said, the phone calls are pouring in and messages, and go for there. So
so February 1st, you said, is when you're announcing all the teams?
Yeah, so February 1st, we're going to just put up the team list. Like I said, it's really easy to kind of guess who's there, because literally the only teams that backed out were teams that, were conglomerates, and they needed to redistribute their entry fee back to the players to go on about their day. But most of the teams that have been coming to ICC at this point are, locked in. They're going no matter what. So there wasn't that big of a deal in them waiting. So
are there any open spots?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So what we're doing is my hang up is I hate backtracking. So one of my things is we're making contact with a lot of the teams and just making sure that, hey, you're still good to go, especially teams like, Dynasty, where you have one person organizing it and 12 other people that may end up on the roster. We want to make sure that, they're still good to go. We had to wait till all the leagues got their schedules out before we could start posing that question, because even something as simple as practice. So like, if you look at the NXL schedule, they have that California event right after, or 2 weeks after Iron City. So our concern was the pros that were going to Iron City, might get caught up in their practice schedule. But fortunately, talking to Tom ahead of time, we were able to establish it was their new amateur event, so it wasn't going to draw away from it. And the NXL was actually really, really good about working with us on the schedule, even going so far as to cross-reference APPA to make sure that they weren't pulling people from our area for that event, so that, it just kind of spoke to how much even the NXL honored Tim's image. Tom Cole called me and said, hey, this is the date we're looking at. Is it going to mess you up? Well, no. And, just it kind of speaks volumes to the weight that Tim had in the industry, that, here's the mighty NXL making sure they don't mess up his date. That meant a lot. And it was one of those phone calls, like you were saying before, where, here I am, my guy, just in an apartment, Iron City in all its glory is still, a one weekend event. It's not a series, but it has enough weight in the industry that, the NXL worked with us, and a lot of other people worked with us. So it's going to be an amazing event, and just the outpouring of support from the industry, and it is incredible.
It was great. Speaking of World Cup, we got to touch on that for a second. First of all, when you mentioned that the Tim Montresor image was that blew me away, because that was my image. Like myself and Evan of Enfleck Media, like I started to create it. Like I just started, and I was just too rattled. So I gave it to Evan, and he knocked it out of the park. And then so when I show up at World Cup and there's this image on all the bunkers and everything, the only thing was the wings were taken away.
That was me. I'm sorry.
Don't be it. I gave it out, and I just take it as a huge compliment. You know what I mean? Like, so
I being the marketing guy at Lux and working so closely with Tim, it was funny because when I first started there, that's one of the things he asked me to do is get rid of all the wings. So like old Lux branding had a lot of heraldry and a lot of wings and a lot of crowns and angels and things like that. And he's like, can we get rid of the wings? It reminded him of Affliction, like the 90s t-shirts. So that's the only reason I took the wings away, is because Tim had asked me to take the wings away of the DLX branding. So I thought it was appropriate.
Hey, you can do whatever heck you want. Like I did it because for obvious reasons, and I had to. I'm just a creative guy, and sometimes when you get locked into something,
it was awesome. That field meant a lot to so many people, and it was one of those things where Soup Air stepped up right after Tim passed and reached out, and I didn't actually provide that graphic. They had already found the graphic and said, hey, can we put this on the bunkers? And they were looking for permission from us, thinking that we had made the graphic. And I'm like, well, no, I didn't make the graphic. And they just went ahead with it all. But it was one of those things that it was serendipitous that it all just kind of went right into one thing.
Yeah.
And And that was what's really cool too, is a lot of people don't know, but JJ, who is the gentleman, one of the owners of Soup Air, has for probably past decade played fantasy football against Tim and all of us at the factory. So it was not just a industry gesture. It meant a lot coming from JJ to be able to do that for Tim as well. So it was, again, just ever since Tim's passing, there's been a more enormous groundswell of, in the moment, you never realize how important you are to so many people. And then when somebody so impactful leaves, you really do get a sense of the volume of that person's personality, how much space they took up in the industry, that they contacted so many people in so many different ways. They may not have known the same Tim as you, but they still knew Tim.
By the way, I have a bone to pick with you, because since we're still talking about World Cup and
Yes.
just switching off Tim for a second.
No worries.
Because you pulled me into the tent in World Cup, myself and Andy, and you started showing me stuff that I'm not allowed to talk about, and I'm still not allowed to talk about, and I want you to know that I hate you.
Which one is this?
I can't tell you because we're live now.
Well, I think I can do this private chat thing, so let me check. There we go.
Okay, let's see what we got in the private chat. That's part of it, yeah.
Okay.
But it was just how can you and we literally walked out and we had all our teams and stuff wait there going, well, what's up? And we're like, yeah, we can't tell you. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you so much.
Well, it's a lot like what you were saying before when somebody called you up on the phone, because, you are in a position where, this is a passion sport, and
yes,
we love what we make, but we're so close to it. There's a lot of times where we'll grab somebody and say, hey man, I know you love this stuff as much as I do. What do you think?
Yeah.
And that's one of the cool things about, our company in general, is that, we're all paintball players. I mean, I think I have brush burn on this elbow from playing Gel Blaster in the office this week, because Chad George brought some in, and he ended up bunkering me, but still had a good time. So, that's one of the great things, is that we get all excited about every product we make.
Right.
And one of the things I showed you was our new graphic anodizing.
Yeah.
So we've been working on that for a while now, and you're going to start to see some of the teams get out there and test it, and kind of work with it. And it's going to be involved in a lot of other programs, but something we're really excited about. We're always trying to do new things. We recently invested in a new laser.
Ooh.
So we can offer some more features for players and things like that when they buy new markers or freak barrels or what have you. So we'll have to
all right, show that back up again, because I want one. So that's cool, because that doesn't look just like normally when something gets lasered, and
this was painted and then lasered, so it looks a little wonky.
Well, yeah, but normally when something gets lasered, where it's lasered just looks white.
Yeah,
and
this was painted stainless steel, and then we lasered it off.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. That looks awesome.
Makes a good wine cup too.
That's one of my complaints about lasering. I mean, I think it's really cool. Don't get me wrong, and it's nice to be able to personalize stuff. But it's being used so much now, it just makes a really nice anodize or really nice color job just look white, and it doesn't. I don't know. It's almost like it clashes.
100%. I mean, that's the cool thing about paintball, is that they're just always, different ways to customize your things. I mean, you go back to something like, the splash anodizing on the old auto mags and stuff that. And
is that a magic box?
Yep, that is a magic box down to the sticker. This one took a long time to find all the pieces for, even down to that I have the matching sidecar to hold the straight shot squeegee and everything like that too, to go with it.
Now, is that a wall hanger, or do you actually play with it?
I've played with it a few times. My running joke is, when it comes to these markers, I love autocockers, I love mags, I love the older markers, but if I'm playing for love, honor, or money, I'm shooting a CBO. If there's something on the line, I'm going to probably shoot one of the modern mechs. But
you got to show the autococker too while you're at it. Come on. I want to see.
Well, this one was it's a 98 cocker, but it's period correct. So
right.
I didn't want to put any of the new stuff on it. So it's got a Palmer stabilizer. It's got the old Max Flow that's got the unscrewable bottle.
Yep.
Were you around when they were doing the CO2 air cocktails in these?
Yes.
That was terrifying. that was a thing. But yeah, down to the steel braided or the springs on the hoses for the pneumatics.
Yep.
But
and you left the old 3-way on as well. You didn't update the 3-way.
No, it's got Palmer regs, but it had a brass 3-way because you could polish the brass with a Q-tip and some Mother's Mag polish.
Right. But so, you can still get a 3-way with a shorter, like a Palmer still makes a smaller 3-way, so you have a shorter throw.
Oh yeah, but if I want to shoot fast, I'm going to shoot with the new Max.
Yeah, fair enough.
I want it to be when I want a slide frame, I want it to like slide for like at least
days,
an inch or two. Just really feel like that way when you bonus ball someone, they really know you mean it. And we'll put it that way. Because it takes 3 years. You're walking off the field and it's just instead of a little faster. So
bonus balls. That's when you're showing the love.
No, it's like hockey. I tell people it's bonus balling in that world. Bonus balling is the wrong term for it, because bonus balling has got such a negative term as it's just used arbitrarily. But like walking somebody off the field used to be the same thing as dropping the gloves in hockey. That guy bunkered your guy, or that guy played dirty, and you're giving him a little love, before he gets off the ice. It's kind of the same mentality I grew up with in it. Not quite tolerated so well in the NHL or on the paintball field anymore, but
that doesn't mean it didn't exist. Yeah, I started playing back when up here in Canada, we were always about a year or two behind the United States. So I started playing in 1989. My first gun was a Nightmare Competition short barrel, and it used 12 grams. And I used the UVEX goggles, which we took X-Acto knives to, and we cut all the supports around the top so we didn't fog. So there were big holes all across the top so it would vent out, because safety.
Oh yeah. The time when the NXL announced that chin straps had to be enforced, I sent Tom a picture of him playing in an old whippersnapper. I was like, "Oh, you survived. Now you got to enforce this chin strap rule." It's a little bit like Batman. If you survive long enough, you got to stick around to enforce it.
Oh, well, at least they're not like Batman. They're not going to make us have nipples on our uniforms.
Don't give anybody any ideas. There's a lot of soft good companies in paintball, and everybody's looking for something to be their trademark.
Well, hey, you know what? Speaking of that, and speaking about things we're not allowed to talk about, I have spent the last year developing my own camouflage pattern.
Oh.
And it's almost done, and I'd love to bounce it off you off air, because I don't want anybody to see it, because this is a completely original camouflage pattern.
That's awesome. I've tried to make one before. They are way harder than you would imagine. I tried to make a Luxaflage at one point. Much harder than you would imagine.
Well,
if you show it to anybody who does any level of hunting or hiding, and they're like, "Well, that's terrible."
Well, yeah, but see, this is specifically designed for paintball and airsoft. Not that I play airsoft, but I always figured that with airsoft, they have, at least around here, like the last couple times I tried, they break up their teams with who's wearing green, who's wearing brown, and who's wearing black, and those are how the teams are set up, right?
Uh-huh.
At least, like, I'm not an airsoft guy by any means, and I thought, well, everybody's trying to have like the different camo and whatnot. Why wouldn't I just start doing that? And it all came from me trying to develop a Popular Unknown podcast jersey, like my own jersey. I wanted to have my own camouflage. It's like, I just wanted something original, but I wanted something that was distinct, and I wanted something that you could, when you saw it, you could see it, and it has a distinctive name that can be marketed, like the whole bit. So yeah, I'll have to show you that off air, because I'm not showing anybody now.
Sounds good. No, I think there's only been one person I think that came up with an original camo and paintball that was like in industry. Peppa Scuda did a couple for Top Rank. I remember seeing his back a couple years ago.
Yeah. And well, I mean, there's always been.
And then Adrenaline, they have a license with, I want to say it's not Cryptech, but something like that, like Adrenaline Paintball. They have a license with an outside. They own
Could be
camo.
it could be cryptic, yeah. That's the one that blurs from like a hex comb to like a blurry. Yeah, it's a really nice camo. But I know that back in the day, Brass Eagle did their own Eagle Cam, which was kind of cool. And I know that there's Pred Cam, which is a paintball camouflage that's based on the Rhodesian, but they've changed all the colors and stuff. And there's actually little Predator logos inside it. Tiger Stripe, Tim Schloss, that wasn't dedicated paintball, but that was, it was actually, you could tell a Tiger Stripe because it had the 3 stripes. And it had little logos inside of it, but it was like it was a specific brand, and this is along that lines. So
yeah, I always thought it was cool, like in the 10-man days or in the original 10-man days, when you saw teams had their own like type of camo. So like the Iron Men wore the
Tiger Stripes.
You know,
that was Tim Schloss Tiger Stripes.
Yeah, the All Americans wore, what was it, Timber Ghost or Real
something
Tree?
Like that, yeah.
And like Aftershock had theirs and things like that. So it was always kind of neat that even before jerseys were, you know, the motocross style jersey that we see today, that each team still picked a pattern. Although I did had to give kudos to John Dresser up in the ICPL at Chicago. He, I guess they went and took pictures of the fields to get color swatches for their camo for their jerseys ahead of time.
That's awesome.
I was like, man, why are your jerseys that kind of like weird off-color camo? And he's like, actually, we came out here a couple before we ordered the jerseys and got color swatches from like where they were gonna play. I'm like, all right, that's some next level planning there.
Absolutely. Oh, I gotta get John on about that. But yeah, no, I just wanted to design something that was, like you said, it was really cool back in the day. People would wear this one specific pattern, and certain teams would copy that or follow suit. And I wanted something along that lines. And so I've spent a year creating it. So
I didn't come up in the Sniper documentary, but there's a good story you'll have to have one of the Aftershock guys tell you about them donning some All-American camo, crawling behind the team and shooting them from behind.
I've heard the story.
And then burning the jersey in front of the Smart Parts trailer. So there were some good rivalries back in the day too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there were. All right. So darn it. See, normally, and this is not okay, industry secret. Normally I have a whiteboard that I write little brief things on behind my my monitor and stuff, so that I have talking points, and I don't have that today. So I don't have my cheat sheet.
So talking points, Iron City Classic will be the last weekend in July. It'll be Friday through Sunday, 5-man on Friday, 1 day only. Saturday and Sunday is 10-man. Our goal is to make it exactly as Tim had left it. So essentially it'll be as he intended it to be, the 2020 event. We're not accepting any more teams, because if you've ever been to ICC, we're at capacity. So we're not bringing in extra teams. We do welcome spectators. But again, just a 3-day event, but it is going to be very important to a lot of people, because Tim's mother, Jennifer, will be up there. His father will be up there. We'll have the unveiling of the trophy that Jason Edwards has helped coordinate down there in Florida.
Nice.
So as far as the last question was the statue of Tim, as far as I know, they were in the process of getting a couple artists to work on it and produce renderings and things like that. So we are a little ways out, but I'll have to reach out to Jason and see where we're at on actual progression. But regardless, talked to Jennifer about a week ago, and she's going to be doing it. So I mentioned in the past, we're going to do something special for ICC. Well, we're going to do a lot of special things. First of all, we worked with a lot of the vendors that are going there. So the vast majority of vendors are going to be producing giveaways. So we want everybody to be able to leave with something, some momentum of the event. So we're producing a lot of products that we're just going to be giving away.
Oh, cool.
And we're also asking vendors in lieu of a vendor fee for their space to provide some type of giveaway for players and things like that. So every vendor that has asked about a spot so far has been dead on about going it. So that's really good. HK Army's got something special in honor of Tim's more populous endeavors. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then Jennifer reached out to me last week, and she's got a special surprise that will be announced February 1st that she's going to be doing with us. So that's kind of cool. She's taken on this whole building paintball thing huge, and she came to us with a really good idea. And so what she's going to be doing, might as well tell it on your show. We're going to be holding one of the 5-man spots, and it's going to be available for a 5-man Young Guns.
Cool.
That we're going to comp the entry on. So that's something that we've never done before. We never, even the pro teams that come, everybody pays their fair share, and, it all goes into making a better event. But Jennifer reached out and she said, it would mean a lot to be able to, do something for get players into the sport. So we're going to be working with her on how to pick and choose. There'll be some type of contest or things like that, but we're going to have a 5-man Young Gun tournament, or a 5-man Young Gun team that will be, sponsored by Jennifer Montresor.
That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. So, you said yes and no. Are there going to be any spots available? Like, is there a date when people can just sort of chime in, or you going to drop that little bomb? Or
so February 1st will be when we announce all the teams. There will be a second period. So we're going to be holding so essentially Tim had a rule that the only people that didn't get stuck in the lottery were foreign teams. So like if you had to secure a visa, if you had to make long-term travel arrangements, he just, didn't want to put you in that position. So we do have 5 teams that were pushed out in 2020 because of COVID. Tim refunded them and said, hey, we can't have you come because of COVID, and had repositioned their teams to fill the rosters kind of quietly with teams that had oversold, teams that missed spot by milliseconds in the draw. So what we're doing is we're giving those teams until May to commit because of COVID. So even there will be very, very limited spots in 10-man February, there's going to be a potential for 5 spots to open up in May if the borders do not open. So kind of a cool thing just to keep things going out through the year. And we're also working with Go Sports and Urban Assault, our venue, to put together a couple of other really cool things, because we do have a couple hours to kill during lunch and early morning that we want to try and give people something to do and just more reason to be at the field.
Cool.
So yeah, I saw somebody ask about the border, but that's what we're doing with our non-US teams, is just giving them a little bit more time to commit or not commit. And then if they can't because of whatever restriction, making those spots available for teams that can. In talking with people in paintball and people in Pennsylvania's legislature, fortunately, we've found that everybody expects at least Pennsylvania to be up and running by August as far as restrictions without, extended quarantine times or anything like that. So really excited about that. And it's good to just get out and play. I was really kind of bummed that I didn't get down to go to Florida Rico's event. I heard it was awesome.
I heard it was awesome too.
We sent Hans Semmelsberger, who's the head of product development at GOG, and our lead technician, Craig Martin, went down and played with the new amp CVOs down there, and they had a grand old time with that. And that'll be really cool because those will be out and kicking by the time ICC rolls around.
See, that's what I'm excited about. I know I watched the video for AMP, or the AMP. By the way, AMP is made by SP, right? Or is that fall under the GOG?
It's made by SP. So the easiest way to understand our structure is I always tell people we're a bit like Volkswagen. So Volkswagen makes Volkswagen, they make Audi, and they make Lamborghini. So in our case, we make GOG, Shocker, and Lux. So same engineering team, same warehousing, similar assembly groups of people, but that's how we've able to keep the pricing down on it. Because you look at like the Lux, and that's been out for 11 years now, and the price hasn't increased despite all the features we add. Same thing since the Shocker. It's been out 7 years now in its current iteration, and the launch price has been, very, very, it's gone up, but it's been kept in check by doing things like that.
Right.
So just different brands, but different goals with each one. And that does bring up a good point that there also will be a Mech Lux by that time.
Nice. I was going to ask. I think you meant that was one of the things you also mentioned, but it was like,
so it's good because James Graley's in there, so he can't yell at me. I see him down in your comments. But yeah, the adrenaline mech frame is finished, and and by midsummer the standard frame should be available. So even if you don't have adrenaline level addiction to the sport, you can still get in with the amp or the adrenaline, or excuse me, the base model.
Right.
But that's the other cool thing. Like I said, I do wear a lot of hats, and I don't want to pigeonhole it into just, the brand I work for. Simon from inception has been awesome since day one with Iron City Classic, and he's going to be bringing over the Tigers from UK. So
nice.
Team, so he reached out and was like, hey, he's been there since day one. Can I get out and play? So we might even see him on the field this year. I don't know. But we're really excited to have those guys. Nicky Truder from the Rushers is planning on coming over.
Nicky T, I love that man. That guy's awesome.
I routinely hear him referred to as the nicest guy in paintball, and I think it's probably pretty close.
Yeah, he's up there. Definitely sure. Yeah, I got, like, when I started doing the podcast, Nicky T was just starting to do his Truderology, and now he's switched over. He's going to be a chiropractor now. Like, can you tell I talk professionally? Along with working with Anthrax, which is the clothing company out of Greece, I believe it is. And I think he's still doing some of his Truderology. I'm not sure. I don't think he's posted anything recently. But yeah, he's becoming a chiropractor now. How cool is that?
That's awesome. He's always just been one of those just genuinely happy people who just want to make everybody around him feel better. So it's not all that surprising to see him move from, being a positive power in our sport to, literally making people feel better.
Yeah.
He's just one of those people. It's good to be in the room with him. If he's excited about, what you're having for breakfast, it might not be that exciting, but you're excited because Nicky's telling you how great it is.
Yeah. Well, when I was starting out, he was starting his out, and we bounced a lot of stuff off each other in the beginning. And he's always like, I'm not a podcaster. I'm a content creator. And I'm like, okay. Well, and the difference is, I don't see a difference. It's just easier to say podcaster. I dated a girl once who was a runner, and they hated being called joggers. I'm like, what's the difference? Joggers don't take it seriously, apparently, is the difference. I don't know. We got Connor saying hello. Connor, by the way, if you haven't heard him, he is from Australia, and he is doing his absolute best to promote paintball down in the country down under, and he's doing his best. So yeah, he's actually a cool dude. He's been on my show and Fred Schultz's show a couple times, and
I got a really awesome opportunity to go down there and play at Mike Wybrew's field a couple years ago, or 2 years ago. I got to go down there. Me, Tim, Ryan, and Sam all went down there and played with the Eskimo Bros. Well, I fixed guns. They played.
Right. Hilmer, so I guess that's Paul. I'm assuming Paul is the first name. Yeah, I saw something come up on that. I'm assuming you were watching on Flagpole Productions, because Flagpole Productions, my stream to that went down mid-show. So not sure why. I can figure that out later, but yeah, that's what that is. So Facebook is weird.
You probably said the wrong thing. You've been censored now.
It's yeah, but it would have censored I'm currently broadcasting on the Denver Expendables, not flagpole on Paintball Media site, and my site was flagpole, YouTube, and Twitch. So, yeah, we
Kevin
got
was asking about the Go Sports thing on the Mounds field, huh?
okay. What does it say here? Do you know if the Go Sports is anything planned for the Mounds field? I personally don't know.
So we're gonna, with all the things that have been going on, we did finally get it. We're gonna be reaching out to Go Sports and seeing what their schedule looks like for 2021. Obviously, they invested a ton of effort in these invitationals and the one-on-one shootout and things like that. So we're really going to depend on what their resources look like. I know that Maddie wants to be there regardless. But as far as Go Sports, they haven't made a commitment to come into ICC just yet. But if they can, I imagine they will. It's one of those things where it's something you don't want to miss, and
Right.
it's a big deal. So I think if they can't be there, we will just have to make some other arrangements. I mean, happen to know a couple people with some media ability, and we'll figure it out. But
they work really hard. I don't subscribe just because I'm not able to watch it enough. So not that I wouldn't subscribe but I like to subscribe everything through my Xbox, and because I'm in Canada, it's just issues, and just for the way I want to watch. They use a completely different kind of software, and they've got multiple cameras going. I would love to see how that works.
I nerd out on it every time. I bother them when they were down at the ICPL. They had a rented U-Haul van that they were working out of. I go in there and bother them when they're at the ICC. They were in the only air-conditioned building on the property, and I still went in there to see what they got going on. It's pretty neat. Those guys do an amazing job.
Yeah, and doesn't I gotta be honest here. I gotta geek out just a little bit. Doesn't Matty Marshall have like one of the best announcer voices ever?
He's got a phenomenal voice, and when you get to talk to him, one of the things that strikes me is that he's incredibly well read.
Yes.
And as such, his vocabulary and his sentence structure is excellent. So he's very easily understood and enunciates very well. And it's one of those things where you're like, I'm very happy you found what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Because you wait for a voice to be like that, like wasted on like a drive-through. Like you go up and it's like, hey, what would you like, sir?
Well, I'll be honest. I think that one was it 5 Sundays. It's a special on YouTube that they did, and it covers, I think 2 years ago, where they covered each Sunday from the major NXL events. That's some of the best TV I've ever watched, and that's not even TV. That's just, but for a paintball show, as far as I'm concerned, that 5 Sundays series is the gold standard of what everything should be judged on. There's like, what do you call like a 0 being somebody StreamYarding off their phone, to a 10 being 5 Sundays? Like that's, and I personally think I'm somewhere in around the 6 range.
Well, that's what's exciting is we're getting, as TV and entertainment moves further and further away from networks. I think we're going to see things like the 5 Sundays, like the Best in Texas, like those things. I think as we go more towards the subscription model, the Netflix, the Amazon TV,
right,
you're going to see more opportunities for things like that. And I'm excited that someone like Maddie's positioned to be the guy.
Yeah, like
if you were there doing Netflix special and you didn't hire Maddie, you missed the boat.
Fair enough. Did you watch those the Best Kids in Texas? Did you watch that show?
I did get to start it, and then I have a 6-month-old kid, so I have not watched anything start to finish at all. I don't think I've watched a 30-minute TV show start to finish.
I was lucky when my son was 6 months old. I had to sing him to sleep. He just cuddled in. He was super quiet, and so I would literally just watch TV as I paced around the room. So I was still able to watch stuff, but I was lucky in that sense.
He's got his father's yearn for attention, and that he just wants to sit there and talk to you. And fiddle with things and everything. He's at 6 months where everything goes in his mouth. You know how that goes.
I do. So, and I had a thought and I lost it. No, yeah, no, I lost
So
it.
one thing about since we're on the topic of my son, might as well keep going on it.
Go, hey.
So he was born August 2nd, which actually would have been the 5-man for Iron City Classic 2020. So had Iron City Classic 2020 happened, I would have been in the emergency room delivering my son before I made it to the event. So that would have been interesting. Now every year with Iron City being the first week in August, he's going to have a heck of a birthday party.
Now, I do remember my question was, and that is a heck of a birthday party, especially when he gets to be 10-man age.
Oh yeah.
With Iron City Classic, I know we haven't got to 2021 yet, but have you started thinking 2022?
Yeah, absolutely. I saw somebody mention the comments about expanding to almost a series or a nationwide thing. And it's something that, Tim and I had always talked about, since the beginning is, where do we go from here? And I think the Pittsburgh event, at Urban Assault, I want to have that there as long as possible. Because it was, the start, and I feel it's the home of the event. But we've talked to a number of fields around the country just to see, is anybody interested in doing something of Iron City Classic level? And it's something that we would want to pair with the right field, the right promoters. Obviously Sam, Ryan, and I would act as the promoters for the event, but obviously you need more boots on the ground and things like that. So, we're definitely looking at it, but it's not something we're going to take on willy-nilly. It's going to have to be the quality of the event that we can produce now.
Right.
If we were to go anywhere else, but no, for 2022, unfortunately, the venue we're at, we can't really expand team count. So ICC is going to continue to be that kind of ultra exclusive, get in where you fit in type thing, just because the size of the place we're working at.
Right.
But we do want to offer other opportunities for people to play 10-man, and we think we put on a really good event.
Oh, awesome! Sorry.
No, sorry. We put a really good event, so we want to try and offer it to more people. But the key thing is offering it multiple places. Is whoever we partner with, field wise or venue wise, it needs to be of the quality, and it's going to take all of 2021 to find that if it's out there.
Nice. Well, I mean, I just wasn't sure because I was wondering about that myself with regards to growth, because it just seems like it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'd heard rumors that you could only grow it so much because the field can only hold so many people and so many teams. And when I compare the ICC to the great games or the great tournaments of the past, the great tournaments that we all think about weren't that big. It's kind of like Camaros today versus Camaros from 1969. Everybody says, oh, the 1969 Camaro was like the ultimate. But a V6 Camaro from today has more horsepower than the V8s from 1969. They've got more get up and go. And so it's just amplified to the next level. So I was just wondering if you guys had been thinking about that. Another question about ICC is, I know that you're going to be naming the trophy, the Tim Montresor trophy. Are you guys going to be showing what the trophy looks like in advance for the hype, or is it going to be a surprise at the event?
So we're in the process of physically building it. Part of the fun stuff about owning a new giant laser is it opens up all new sorts of things that we can build and work on. So we're going to be actually trying to build something unique that sticks around for a while with it. What that looks like yet, yeah, we'll probably show it. Just there's a long time till August. We got to have something to talk about. So we'll definitely be showing that off and things like that.
So, all right. So I'm going to change the subject off of ICC. If we go back, we go back, because that's just the way my show works. But the amp, I love that new gun. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my XLS, which is
that's one of Caesar's, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the Ultra Shocker. We were looking at it. You were testing it at right. World Cup.
Oh, same one in the same.
Yeah, same one. Yeah, so I've got it in the CVO frame and the whole bit. That gun is just awesome. Love it. But you've done a lot of things with the amp to make it so that the frame swaps easier.
Yeah. So the big thing with the story behind the CVO is actually kind of the story of 10 Man. So when ICC first happened, so 2017, we played ICC 2017 with enemies. Actually, Sam Monville played with a G1M, so a mechanical military style G1, because he wanted a longer platform and thought the G1 was too short, or thought the enemy was too short. So the CVO didn't exist. There wasn't, Planet didn't have a mechanical marker. It was enemies and autocockers. And
right.
That was pretty much it. And after playing, we played, when I say we, I mean everybody at the factory. We kind of played on various teams. We played 7 events that year, and we won 5 of them with enemies.
Right.
And we came back to the factory, and Hans Semmelsberger, who's our product developer, is like, man, we could make a really awesome mech that I want to play with. And since he plays, it was not very hard to motivate him. So it was kind of funny that now everything has to be able to convert to mech so that you can play everything. But when we first did it, we only made 700 CFOs or CVOs because we weren't sure that anyone would buy them.
Right.
Because there was no market. There was no 10 Man just as recently as 2017. But now here's the amp, and what I was fiddling around with below is the 1 Allen key. You take the 1 grip frame screw out, and then the whole frame just comes off. So, and then the solenoid does the same, where you can just that, put your mech solenoid in, put your mech frame on, and you're done.
Right.
So it's crazy to think that just a couple years ago, and because of the excitement of players around 10 Man, that this happened. If it wasn't for players, getting into 10 Man and playing mech and wanting to get out and do these tournaments, these markers wouldn't exist. And that's really kind of cool for us, you and me, as industry participants, to see, actualization of passion, to see, okay, this is actually coming out, and, the industry is reacting, and the industry isn't some amorphous blob. It's not Elon Musk in a office somewhere. It's not, some guy tinkering, in a lab coat. This is paintball players making stuff for paintball players.
Right.
And it's not just, smart. It's not just, GOG and SP. It's also, Planet and, Simon and all the other people that are out there pushing this mech concept forward. Buddy Bauer with Free Flow, Shock Tech. Free Flow and Shock Tech were non-existent brands. They had run their course, and they were, they were already out to pasture, and 10 Man had grabbed them out of the pasture and drugged them back to the city and said, I want a new autococker, please. Get
over here.
Exactly. So, it's just really good to see what 10 Man and what Players Energy have done to the industry. So obviously we weren't out, we were making a high-end electronic marker, but to see mech paintball drive a resurgence, not just for us, but also for Shock Tech, also for, even Adrenaline. I don't know if you've had James Grayley on, but his story with the Adrenaline project is really kind of awesome. He went out and played one of the 10 Mans, and he goes, I think I want to make a marker again. And that's how the Adrenaline product, that's the entirety of the Adrenaline project, literally just is to fund his 10 Man team. Like, it's not like he's doing this to get rich. He's literally running the Adrenaline thing so that he can afford to go play 10 Man with all his friends. And it's pretty awesome.
That is awesome. That's truly awesome. Yeah, I love what you've adopted with that amp and how you're able to switch it out. Because I'll be honest, I'm terrified to switch this over. I like it so much set up the way it is. And I mean, it takes a lot for me to admit that I don't want to swap this out, just because I like it as electric, but I want to shoot it mechanical. And I think I would just rather have 2 guns and just go whomp whomp.
Well, that was really the idea behind this is that it just makes it more approachable. You know, it's
Right.
not like it's not rocket surgery or anything either way, but just like you said, you know, if you have a very nice marker, it shoots the way you want, and you don't want to have to fiddle with it. So that's really where this came from, was just the idea of, you know, make it more approachable. You know, 10 man is that much more approachable now. You know, and I think that's true of the whole thing. I mean, paintball needs to be approachable and consumable. So if you don't understand how to modify your marker, or it's too complicated, it's just one more barrier to entry. You know, it's if
Right.
you're not going to get into race cars if you can't change your oil. You know, it's that simple. So, and paintball's the same way. Is if you can't understand how your marker works and how to take care of it, you're less likely to do so. You're going to have less good. You're going to have less good times. You're going to have your marker perform less well. You're going to do poorly on the field, and you're not going to have a good time. So, anything that you can do as a manufacturer or as a promoter or paint manufacturer, any of those things, to make sure that each time is enjoyable and there's no barriers to entry is huge. Because I mean, if I had to start today and say, okay, here's your tournament marker. Go ahead.
I can actually fix that easier than I can fix the XLS.
Touche. I'll tell you what, I'll put all the parts from this on a lunch tray, and I'll put all the parts from your CVO on a lunch tray, and we'll see who has a functional gun faster.
Oh, I'm not saying who can have it faster. I'm just saying I know that thing inside and out and backwards, especially because it's period correct.
Oh yeah, there's nothing fancy in this thing. It's even down to the OEM bolt.
See, I love the old Shock Tech Superfly bolts. Those are just like the bee's knees as far as I'm concerned.
They made some really awesome stuff. I literally just made the autococker that I couldn't afford when I was a kid.
Right. And a lot of people do that. Have you seen my 97?
I don't know that.
All right, it's buried over there. I won't be able to show it tonight, but I'll have to show you some pictures of it. I bought it brand new in 1997, and it slowly has evolved over and over and over.
That's fair. Your one comment down there, you're forgetting the mag, easier than both. But
see,
he's not wrong.
He is wrong though. He is wrong, because now that is what, a level 7?
No, this is period correct. I couldn't put a level 7 on here. Come on.
All right, but my point is those mags are easy. Yeah. The new level 10s, they require just as much timing with all the shims and stuff. Like,
I'm trying to take the rear grip frame thumb screw out, the thumb blender, as I used to call it, because you could not shoot one of these markers without having a scar on your thumb knuckle from this.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I had one of those, and I used a Crown Point mag at Canadian Amateur Open in '98. It was awesome. And yeah, there's my mag right there. But that's a newer version. That's with the EMAG level 10 RT bolt and blah blah blah.
Well, my shutoff fell out, but I don't know. That still took a lot more work than the modern ones. For whoever was, this still seems easier to me.
Yes, it does. Now, speaking of the amp, while we're talking about amps and modifications and things like that, I am loving how, and I shouldn't say loving, that's the wrong choice of words, but I'm finding it amusing, or I'm being very entertained by people that are saying that the amp doesn't work in the cold. And so what they want to do, what they're recommending, is switching over to this little foamy bolt thing. And the responses that you're giving are the best. Like, very polite, in no way, shape, or form are you being rude, but you're like, we bought the bolt, we tested it it doesn't work.
It's not that it's not that it doesn't work. It's just like, when you're making something for one person, it only has to work for that one person.
Right.
It only has to do well in that one marker. It only has to do well in the conditions they play in. So when we're designing a marker for the world, it literally has to work for everyone.
Right.
So things like flat-faced bolts and rubber-faced bolts and things like, we've looked at those and we've tried those and things like that. So if it was a magic bullet to shove a piece of rubber in the end, that would have been awesome. But it's not. On the same token is, the gentleman producing that bolt, he's got a family to feed, and
Right.
so I always tell people, when it comes to paintball, if you want to try something, just buy it and try it, enjoy
Yep.
it. That's what we do here. But at the same token is, I don't want people to go, oh, I just bought this new marker and now I got to go buy this to make it work. No, you can shoot anything out of this amp. If the paint is shootable, it'll come out of your amp. We tried flat face bolts. We recently sponsored AC Dallas and AC Diesel. One of the things we do when we bring a team on is, especially in new product development, is we say, hey, what would you like to see? And the AC guys said, hey, we want to try a flat face bolt. You've never done one before in a shocker. We want to know if it would make it better. So we designed, built, and gave them a flat face bolt, and it didn't do any different. And we actually had it down at World Cup. Obviously nobody knows this, but we were testing it at World Cup because you can't get better paint than you can get at World Cup and XL. That's the best of the best. If they're going to bring their best paint, that's when they're going to bring it.
Oh yeah.
So we were able to shoot, the most brittle paint that they could hand us. And one of the cool things about AC Dallas and Diesel is they're obviously coached or owned, I'm not quite sure, with Greg Pauly.
Right.
Greg Pauly obviously works for GI, so he was able to say, this is the most brittle ball GI can produce here. And we were able to test it and shoot that paint through the marker. So when I say we've been extensively testing it, we have. And even when we had a couple people pop up on Facebook and say we're having problems, we went back and we went through 80 cases of paint at the factory of various batches and brands, saying, okay, do we get this? Yeah, okay, we're good. So, we're really confident in the marker's ability to handle any paint that's out there, and the efficiency and the handling is pretty incredible. The biggest problem I've had is people getting ridiculous efficiency numbers. Like, I don't believe their numbers.
Like efficiency low or efficiency high?
Like high. Like I had somebody say they got 13 tubes and a hopper off of 68, and I'm like, no, you didn't. That's insane.
On what kind? Like, was there a modification that they did to it, or
it was out of the box? Like, I got 13 tubes and a hopper out of the box. I'm like, what?
Maybe if he was only shooting like 200 feet per second or 50 feet per second.
That could be it. But I thought that was like, okay, I would love to use that as an advertising thing, but no.
Yeah. So those special soft bolts, they are nicer on the paint, but they require you to up the air pressure in the gun, correct?
Yeah.
To get velocity.
Yeah. So first of all, in order to have the rubber insert, you got to restrict the internal bore of the bolt face. So you're essentially restricting how much air can flow through the face of the bolt. So just putting the bolt in with that restriction, you're going to have to increase your operating pressure about 25 to 30 psi, which means your marker will kick more, the bolt's going to move faster, and it can potentially, it can counteract any benefit you're getting of that flat face bolt. The other thing, just from an internal theory, why we've kind of strayed away from true flat face bolts, is because a flat surface and a round ball means you essentially get a minimal contact area.
Right.
Whenever you have a flat surface and a round surface, you have a minimal contact area. It's almost a point. But when you use a concave outer surface, you're contacting the outer edge of the ball. So if you remember, geometry, the strongest area of a sphere is its edge. That's where we're physically contacting the ball. So we get the goal, the gain of the flow, and then the cross section of the ball. Now there is a way to get around it, and James Grayley did an extensive amount of testing with a semi-concave face, and that's what you'll see in the Adrenaline platform going forward. Their F16 bolt took 16 iterations to find the right concave. So the essentially the happy median between what we use as OEM and what is present in that rubber face bolt minus the rubber. Because
Right.
rubber causes that air restriction. So yeah, James has got a really interesting product there, and that's actually kind of cool because that will be something I believe he's going to sell aftermarket if you're in the interest for that as
Nice.
well. So he's going to have that available down the road as well. Additionally, down the road as well, we've had a lot of people We had a lot of people ask with the CVO. We had high-rise feed tubes. Those are coming for the amp. So the guys, it's like that high-rise feel from back in the day with the 900 feet tall impulses.
Yeah.
You'll be able to get your raise there. We're also gonna have lever style ASAs for the amp. We're really trying to bring some accessories that players have asked for with this platform.
That actually brings up an interesting conversation that I had recently with somebody, and it's going to be talked about again in the near future. And the complaint was that, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, but if you don't have an opinion or you'd like to pass, I fully appreciate that. That with mechanical guns, they're going faster and faster and faster. And so now there's a big complaint about arms races. And those high-rise feed necks, that was because paintball loaders at the time couldn't feed fast enough for how fast you could shoot. So you would want paint stacked, and that's why the high-rise was so. You want the paint stacked so you could get good, solid, fast bursts. And then when you broke, or you came back in, it would fill back up and you could burst again. But if you had a low rise, you couldn't hit the same volume of paint. And I was wondering what your opinion with regards to ICC is with all these guns shooting faster and faster and faster, because I know the new CS2 with its mechanical frame, it's able, as from what I understand, they're able to sustain 13 balls a second easy with how the figures and how they've got it all worked out. Do you think that's defeating the whole purpose of having a mechanical event in the first place?
Nope, not at all. I'm actually really thrilled you asked this question because it's one of my favorites, and it's not something you can answer on Facebook without having a million people attack you for it.
Right.
I, for one, don't think it's a problem because it's a skill, right? So long as you have mechanical features in there, you as a human still have to pull the trigger.
Right.
So if you're shooting 13 balls a second, that's fantastic. Do it accurately. Do it while running. Do it through a tree. Do it while jogging. Do it while walking casually. You can't, or you don't, or it's a skill. It's something you had to work on. Right. And you talk to, players from the OG days, man, that guy could shoot an autococker while running the corner so fast. That was part of who that player was. Yes. That was something that they could do that made them special. They weren't the fastest runner. They weren't the smallest guy. They were, not the most communicator, but they could accurately run and shoot a mechanical marker. And I think the same thing is true, is no matter how light and short you make the trigger, it's still the player input that you have to run and shoot accurately while imparting that trigger. And even on something as light as, this is obviously electronic version, but every time you pull the trigger, whether it be a paintball marker or a real firearm, you are altering the trajectory of the projectile. So a half inch at your barrel tip is 3 feet at 100 yards.
Yep.
So when you got somebody up and doing this, with the gun up on their shoulder and they're fanning the trigger, they might be hitting a 3 to 4 foot area.
Right.
That's okay for sweet spotting, but are they participating in the game? Or are they just shooting paint?
See, that's the argument. Like, it's just wondering is by making mechanical guns this much faster, is it going to take the movement out of the game and get people back to just shooting lanes, which is basically airball?
Not unless we take the trees out. And that's why that's why I really like the Iron City Classic format, because yes, on Hyperpipe, I could give a little bit of credence to the argument, but on mounds, it's irrelevant. You can't see what you're shooting at. And if you're standing on top of a mound long enough to put that marker up there and start fanning, someone took your head off anyway. It's because there's so many dimensions to the game. I think focusing on just the rate of fire is something that happened when we took everything else away. When the game, everybody said, oh, rate of fire this, rate of fire that, but all the other things that narrowed up around that were far more important. When you narrowed up the fact that we are now out of the woods and on inflatable fields and rate of fire, when you're now going to players that are on average 12 to 15 years younger than the players that were playing at a pro level. Bob Long didn't go pro until he was in his 30s.
Right.
and he went pro in the woods. Now, if you went, I don't know of a pro player that's gone pro in their 30s since we've gone to airball. I could be wrong, but one's not rolling off the top of my head.
I'm not that familiar, so.
But you see what I'm saying is I think
Yeah.
there was a lot of other factors that people lose sight of when they focus on rate of fire. And I think that a lot of the rate of fire wars that you're seeing, they're going to be fought and they're going to be won in the parking lot or the chrono range, showing each other how fast they can shoot their brand new gun and, going, hey, watch, every time I pull the trigger, it's 75 cents. I can shoot $7 an hour. It's one of those things. It's just, I don't think there's a problem with it. That being said, something we recognized really early on is that there was the potential for an arms race. So one of the things we do in Iron City Classic rule set and the ICPL has also carried over, and a lot of other classic events have, is our restriction to a single finger trigger. So now when Tim and I were initially starting Iron City Classic, we reached out to Simon, we reached out to Jacko, we reached out to John Dresser, and just, all the big brains we could reach out to and talk to and say, hey, what do we think about, this arms race? And we came up with the concept of, hey, we can't limit trigger weight because none of us are going to sit down and weigh triggers. We don't want to limit equipment too much because part of the draw of Classic is that you can show up with anything from a spider to a brand new marker and be competitive. So we didn't want to say, oh, you can't have this or you can't have that. And that's actually how we ended up with the Mech 5.5 is we sat there and we took a collection of markers and put them outside, and we had a bunch of players shoot them and say, okay, at what point do you have a hard time deciding whether you'd shoot electronic or mech? And it came down to that. And that's how we ended up at 5.5, because the advantages with electronic are obviously weight, ergonomics, anti-chop eyes, all the trimmings of a modern marker. So there needed to be some advantage made up by that mechanical trigger. And that's where we said, okay, well, then the mech will be, uncapped with the quantification of the single trigger. Now, I saw somebody down in your questions add about walking the trigger on modern mechs. And that's specifically why Tim and I and a number of industry inputters said, hey, let's limit it to a single trigger. Because it does limit your ability to walk it.
Right.
Is the traditional You can still fan it, but again, when you fan a trigger, you're much less accurate, and it's much less involvement in the actual aiming of the marker.
And that's when you say single trigger, that's all on modern mechs. The old autocockers, or not autocockers, well, autocockers too, but the old automags can have double triggers because they're the old mech.
Yep. So the way we kind of define it, and we will be working to, add some language to the rules since technology has evolved since 2017. But essentially the way I describe it to people is if the trigger interacts with a secondary mechanical function before triggering the firing of the marker, then you're good to go. So in the Automag's case and in the Autococker's case and the Spider's case, they all trip a sear. Whereas the AMP, the CVO, the Enemy, the GMAC, the EMAC, the ETEC, whatever mech they have now, they all have a trigger that directly acts on the valve. So there's no secondary mechanical function of a sear. So a seared marker can have a double trigger, a non-seared marker may not.
Right.
That made it about as clear as you can get it. And we've had, speaking of mags, since you brought them up, we had a lot of people worry about the RT thing and things like that. Let me just be as clear as possible. RT is absolutely fine. What is not okay is a bouncing trigger.
Right.
So those of you who are Automag fans know you can use an RT valve without having a bouncing trigger. Just got to do that. That's the only thing. You have to be able to control your marker.
Right.
And that's
no sweet spotting.
Yeah. And then as far as rate of fire goes, there's nobody that can touch the cyclical rate of an Automag. That if we went back to auto, if we really wanted to build an arms race, you'd win it with a level 10 Automag. They can shoot like 30 balls a second before they get a shoot down. If you really were worried about, an arms race, it's already won. by tech that was made 25 years ago.
It's funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's actually this conversation here is actually where I actually met really. Well, I shouldn't say met, but met with Tim Montresor. Man, that was I did a whole in I think it was April, May. I did a whole article on all carbon fiber automag for Paintball Media Magazine. And everybody says, well, it's great, but it's not allowed in mech tournaments. And I'm like, well, yes, it is. And I created a podcast where I had Tim Glavin, who makes the automags now, and I had Tim Montresor, and I had Trevor Van Dorser. You've met Trevor from here in Toronto, and I had actually Jake, who's this one here. Jake is one of the best automag techs in the world right now. He is the mag whisperer, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, that's how I met. Tim was specifically talking about automags, which is funny because I'm an autococker guy, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things you have to be a fan of the sport. You know, you can't pigeonhole yourself if you really want to enjoy what's going on. You know, unfortunately, the world we live in really polarizes a lot of people that you have to be one way or the other, and just fortunately, paintball is not one of the sports where you really have to be. You know, you can choose to be, but you don't have to be. You can shoot an autococker, you can shoot an automag. And that was one of the big goals with bringing 10-man to the forefront with Iron City Classic, is that Tim and I recognized that you didn't have to be an upper echelon athlete to do well. You didn't have to be financially stable to go out and spend $2,000 on a marker. You could just show up with whatever you found in your garage and go do it. And you know, the fact that we had a player who was on crutches before his match and then went out and played kind of speaks to it. You know, we had Magic Mike from the Brooklyn Bears. He got to go play on the Mounds field, and he's, you know, shoulder to shoulder with his 13-year-old son. You know, everybody can play with anything they brought. And that's something that really kind of drew us all to paintball in the first place. You know, you look at the broad swath of people who are involved in our sport, and I think if you take paintball away, we wouldn't have half of them. You know, I wouldn't have found the friends and relationship I have outside of this game. So it's a shame to say, you know, you are an autococker guy or whatever. So like that's the thing with Iron City and with the rule sets and things like that. I'm always going to try and push to make sure that everybody's included, and just like that, you know, we wouldn't want a tech like automags being excluded for some silly technical reason, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And when I say I'm an autococker guy, it's more, how do I put it? I honestly believe paintball guns choose the player, not the other way around. I think that there's certain things that just feel right and just connect with you. You know what I mean? Now, I love the new stuff. Like, playing with this at World Cup was such a great experience. Like, this thing is amazing. And as much as I love this, I'm not a fan of the Lux. And I know that, and I know it is the flagship and it's the better and the whole bit. But when I wrap into it, I love a shocker. When I wrap into a Lux, it's just not me. And that in no way, shape, or form is putting down the gun, because that thing's awesome. But it's just not me.
I always make the joke that paintball markers are a lot like sneakers. You can know somebody's size. You can even know their favorite color, and you still couldn't pick the right one for them.
Right.
You know, and if there was only one type of sneaker, we'd all be out of business and we'd all be miserable. If there was just one sneaker, everybody would be like, oh, I hate this shoe. Do you have a shoe? I hate shoe. You know, that's how we'd all feel. So the fact that there's such a wide variety is why we have this sport. You know, if there wasn't so many options, you know, it's like, you know, Build-A-Bear. You know, you start and you're like, well, this needs to be here and that needs to be there, and you know, I still have fun picking out the parts to put one together. You know.
All right, so we've been gone for an hour and 15 minutes, which is nothing for me, but I know that you've got to run relatively quick with the kid and stuff. But I got one last question to ask. How possible would it be for you to start making the enemies with autococker threads as opposed to that ion thread? Because you switched the shockers over.
So we didn't switch the shocker. So when the RSX was being developed, they literally go, okay, what's the most popular thread?
Right.
And we said, okay, autococker. Because prior to that, I want to know the SFT. Yeah, the SFT was the last of the Shocker threads because Shocker had its own proprietary thread at one point. Then the
Yes.
NXT picked up and shared the Ion thread, which is the 3-turn thread. And 3-turn thread is kind of standard. To answer your question, all you got to do is buy 700 of them. It's at $150 marker. It's very difficult to make sweeping changes like that because not only are we changing the barrel, but we get the rental barrels made 1,000 at a time. So it's one of those things where it would be very difficult to change. But if you want to make a custom run of like, we'll make it a lower deal like 400.
Well, I'm just saying that for future models, because you got to upgrade as you go. For future models, do you want to swap it out to an autococker thread? Because I was looking at paintball guns the other day, and I was like, I really want to try an enemy, but all my barrels are autococker threads, and it's just sort of like I don't want to invest in the gun, and then I'm looking at the.
Well, fortunately, the Freak, you can change the back. They're very inexpensive.
Yeah, I still need a Freak back for that, because I mean the only Freak back that I have is this, but this is the XL, and that Freak tip is for the standard Freak. So I don't have
that mag cocker threaded or is it twist lock?
That is cocker threaded.
I was gonna say I have a twist lock, a mag Freak in my basement I could send you, but I don't have a cocker threaded. I might have one.
No, and that's the standard threads, which means that I don't think you guys don't make the standard Freak It barrel anymore, do you?
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
okay.
we never stopped making it. It's one of those things that's so popular you can't really get rid of it. The Freak XL was literally a wish list of what people had been asking us to produce.
Right.
So the threads between the front and the back on the XL, we actually made more coarse so that the dirt didn't get trapped in it, and it was less likely to gall. So that's why they're not compatible. But yeah, we never stopped making the original Freak, and I don't think we're going to anytime soon. It's still probably the most popular modular barrel worldwide out there.
I just figured that everybody would be buying the XL now because why wouldn't you?
Actually, I asked the same question, and it has a lot to do with packing space. So players that travel a lot to play, the fact that you can pack 3 inserts or 4 inserts in the front and back in the size of a Coke can is a big selling point for the original Freak. Plus, just like you, a lot of people out there that have the parts already. I mean, the barrel's been out for almost 20 years now. So
right.
People are just rather buy a new back for their new marker than a whole new barrel. So yeah, we've been really fortunate with that. And, we're going to try and we've been testing the waters on doing some revamping our Freak Junior line to use those smaller inserts because we can bring the cost down for entry level barrel because there's less machining. So there's still a future for the OG Freak. It's not going anywhere, but we'll have to find you a purple Freak XL.
That's awesome. Well, I know that I've got a buddy that's going to be sending me a back for that, and then I've got to find the inserts for it. That Automag, if you don't know, that I got at a pawn shop for $40. It had it had a tack 1 frame and the whole bit, and it wasn't working, and it was just pissing air everywhere. And so I picked it up. I swapped the body out. Jake, who's watching, I swapped the body out and got the purple one. And my friend Martin from the Booney Boys, he made the purple glitter grips for it. And so yeah, like it's not the same way as where I got it, but $40 for a mag is basically highway robbery.
I was gonna say, I think those CCM fittings you got on there cost $40 a pop.
Yeah. Well, I actually after I wrote that article about the carbon fiber nail gun, I was talking a lot with Tim Glavin, and Tim Glavin says, send it to me. So that gun actually went to Airgun Designs and was completely rebuilt by Tim himself. So that is Sandman's creation right there.
That's awesome. We actually, when we were writing the rules of Iron City Classic, I spent a good probably 20, 30 minutes on the phone with Sandman, reassuring him that we weren't outlawing Automax.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get him, and I didn't know enough about the RT to understand, what we needed to look for. So he was really insightful and really helpful in telling us, it can be done without being a runaway trigger, and here's what they need to do. And so he's a really great resource. So I'm happy to see he's still around.
Oh, he's awesome. I really wish I could have recorded the after show from the one show that I did with the two Tims and whatnot, because everybody left and it was just Tim Montresor and Tim Glavin and myself, and we are just chatting away like this after I'd stopped recording. And it was so much fun. That was the show that everybody wished they could have seen. But
I still think one of my biggest regrets is that Tim won't get to write a book or something, just with all the stories that he collected all of those years, because it was just awesome. Just the conversations you have with people, just the paintball conversations that are out there. I don't mean to get personal, but I saw your post earlier in the
my guest
about paintball and combating depression with it, and that was something that we had a lot of conversations about. Is that I personally struggle with depression, which is an odd position to be in as a marketing person and expected to be outwardly positive and still have it, but it's been a gift to me in that it makes me ultra critical of everything I do, so I make less mistakes.
Right.
Less, not none.
I understand.
But that was one of the things, is that just in these conversations and talking about paintball, it's you really do get that positive vibe from everybody. So you've done a great job with this show, even if that wasn't off to the air one. This one's been great. Really enjoy the positive vibes. So you're doing great, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. All right, I'm going to give anybody a chance. We're going to stall a little bit, see if there's any last questions before I let you go, because I know that you've got to get to your kid and stuff. But we've got a bunch of people watching.
I'm just reading through your comments now, see if I missed anything.
Yeah. Well, I try to pop up the ones that are. I try to pop them up, and I don't know if you get to. Do you get to see the ones that are all coming from? YouTube and everything, and Twitch and.
I don't know if it's coming from Twitch. I see Facebook and YouTube.
Okay, well, there is Twitch ones as well, but there's a gentleman like this gentleman here, GC Sheesh, says how I unload my automatic into my, which is not the most politically correct paintball wise, but
I mean, I guess that's what paintball is
yeah,
your friends.
All right, my friend. Well, listen, why don't I let you go and let you get back to being a kid? I know it's getting late and you don't want to be making too much noise. So thank you for coming on and saving the day tonight.
I'm happy to be on, and we'll hopefully be on later in the year.
Anytime that you want to release something new or interesting, or you got anything you want to talk about, or as things come up, you're always welcome on the show. There's a good chance I'm going to be at ICC, so I can't wait to see you there face to face again. So maybe you can tell me other things that I'm not allowed to talk about.
We're gonna do a live show at ICC. Is what I'm hearing?
We can do that too. I'm not sure if I have the.
We'll do a pre-recorded show. We'll do a couple interviews, and then you can post them when you get home.
Oh, we got something here. Why don't you have everyone submit stories and edit something together? I could do that, Kevin.
It's not a bad idea.
It's a great idea.
That'd be a fun project for ICC. Have everybody tell a story about what's your paintball story, or what's your Tim story, or what's your 10-man story.
Kind of like how back in the day, I don't know if you're old enough for this, but they used to have the little disposable cameras, and everybody would take pictures, and then it would just turn into a giant montage after the fact that the photographer would put together.
That would be interesting.
Because you get all those pictures anyway, so.
I hope so. I mean, I think my favorite thing is looking back through that stuff and just remembering the moments and the laughs and the camaraderie and stuff like that. I mean, I still remember just the phrases. I was standing next to Phil Thompson, who's the gentleman who runs the venue at Urban Assault. We're standing at the top of the hill, and it was Image versus Dynasty for first and second. And he played at a high level for a long time. And I just looked over and go, it's 2019. Did you think Dynasty and Image would be playing for first and second on a hyperpipe field in front of your eyes? He's like, no.
All right, Russell. Well, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for being on. It was absolutely fantastic having you. And do you have any parting words for people?
Nope. Tune in. If you don't already, please follow Iron City Classic on Facebook and Instagram. It's literally just Facebook /Iron City Classic, Instagram /Iron City Classic. February 1st, we'll be announcing all our teams. We're pretty much all sold out. There's a lot of 5-man opportunities. Very few, if any, 10-man opportunities initially. And if you do have a Young Guns team, get excited because Jennifer Montressor will be sponsoring one 5-man team for there. And I'm going to personally be reaching out to some paint sponsors and soft goods sponsors, see if we can get them completely taken care of, which would be awesome. So
mention my name too. All right, my friend, you have a great night. Thank you again so much. And I will talk to you soon.
See ya.
All right, everybody. So that was my show for tonight, and I think it was just amazing. I have to say, I think this is one of the better shows that I've had in a long time, and it's not just because of how awesome Russell is, but I really enjoyed the content. We talked about some pretty serious things and some pretty unserious things, and I don't know. I really enjoyed tonight. This was just perfect. So thank you all for joining me. One last thing, if you're shopping online, don't hesitate to swing by Valken.com or Valken.ca and use my discount code McGuire10, and that's a one-time purchase discount. So if you are looking for stuff, make sure you swing by there because you can save money, and who doesn't want to save money? So in the meantime, thank you all so much. I will talk to you all next week. Oh, and don't forget, I have a Friday bonus show that is released to YouTube only. And I put that up every Friday night, and that's always a fun time. And it's just a short little thing that I pre-record. But so make sure you swing by Popular Unknown Paintball at our podcast on YouTube and sign up for that so you don't miss my little bonus shows. So thank you so much. Keep your paint dry and play with passion, everyone. Talk to y'all later. Ciao.